Animation and Seneferu pipeline. The animation has several tasks that can be assigned to the animator depending on the situation or the character to be animated and for what purpose the animation task is needed. So there are multiple things that can be added at the asset level. Let's see, for example, some of the characters here. You can find or create tasks like pose task or anim clip task. The anim clip task and the pose tasks are two tasks that you may have several instances of them for each character asset. So you can use them to define the characteristics of the character. Each published pose and each published anim clip is going to be saved in the studio library in Maya if you have configured the system to do that. By default, Seneferu is configured to do that, but if you change this, then that's are free, of course, to do or to customize the system as you want. So the poses can have like any other task in Seneferu. You can say that this pose, for example, angry, and you can use it for expressions. I mean, you can use it for anything, just any type of poses you want, maybe for the full body or for facial expressions or whatever. You can give it any subcontext you want, and you can create as many as you want for each character asset. The anim clip is the same thing, but the difference is that, of course, the pose is a static pose and the anim clip is going to be animation. Usually, the clothes setups and hair setups or character effects in general requires animation clip to test the simulation and to make sure that the clothes setup and the hair setup are working as expected. For that, it's always recommended that you have an anim clip called something like test or sim or whatever that can be used for testing cloth and hair simulation. This task is recommended to have a little bit a tough motion to just to stress test the clothes setup and the hair setup as I just mentioned. So now let's see how we deal with this in Maya. Let's start by this character, and I will set the task to in progress, and of course we will do load dependencies, which will load all the dependencies needed to do your job, and I will just quickly apply any motion from Maya. So I made or I loaded an animation clip here on the character. So one of the things you can do is to also apply the anim look to the whole scene, or by selecting the character and click on I will use all the scene and apply anim look. This will apply the animation look. Go to the texture mode, then you will find that the look has been resolved, so we can see better looking of the characters when we do play blast for reviewing and for animatic editing or whatever. So one of the things you need to notice is that we have to start at frame 900 or whatever the frame that you configured your system for the shot to start from, and how many frames did you define for the pre-roll or for the run-up for the caches. In my case, the system, or by default, Seneferu is configured to the way that the shot will start from 1001, and there will be 101 frame for the cache run-up, which is needed for the cloth and hair setups later, because notice that the setups are created at the bind pose, so you have to have your animation start from the bind pose. So, and it's recommended to have the keyframe flat tangent too. This makes the life easier for the solvers later. And now we are ready to publish this. I will create asset locator, but before we publish, we want to create a play blast. So now we can maybe we can do the play blast. It's doing the play blast off screen. Now, this is the path where, or the temporary path where the play blast is written. You can copy this because we will need it when we are publishing the clip. Otherwise, you will have to browse to it during the publish. So now I will publish my task, and I'll take a snapshot for this. And here, when the system is asking for any additional files that you want to publish, place the file that you copied, which is the play blast. So, because we want this play blast to go for reviewing and for maybe for editing or for any other downstream process that requires the QuickTime clips generated from your animation task. So the first pass you saw is running up here was actually exporting or writing out a studio library clip, because every pose or each pose you publish and each anim clip you publish will write an entry in the studio library. So that's how the system is configured to do. You can configure it to do whatever you want, of course, but this is by default how the system is configured to do. So each pose and each anim clip will be for every character will be there in the studio library. Of course, you know why do we need that. And also the geometry cache has been written to, in this case it's written to Alembic. If your system is configured to use USD, then it will be written out to USD instead. So that's our clip now. If you click on shift click, you can view the play blast that we have written during the publish. And this is now could be an anim clip task, anim clip test that we can use it to test our clothes setups and hair setups to see how they will behave later. And if you look at now at the studio library, you will notice that if you refresh that, you will see that you have here the anim clip test that we just generated. One of the other animation tasks or processes that you may be assigned to do is something called Anim Layout SCN. This is the animation layout for a scene level or the animation blocking of the scene level. So you can here use it for animating or doing the animation blocking or pose-to-pose animation or the animation for the whole scene in a sequencer. Always look at the task description here, because it will most of the time will have technical brief regarding to the task or the considerations that you have to bear in mind when you are doing your job. The first thing we will do is to set the task to in progress, of course. Then the production manager, of course, will automatically find and list all the dependencies you need to have to do your job, including the environment where the scene should be happening, because this environment is planned to be a member in the scene 3 itself. That's why it appears here. If you have assembly SCN, then the assembly of the scene will come instead of this, which this will be contained on it. So it depends on the tasks created on the scene itself. And as you see, all the characters members in this shot are also here. And also the soundtrack of this scene is here. And of course, when we did load dependencies, as you can see, the soundtrack has been already loaded. Then now, according to the brief, we can start working on the camera sequencer and create our shot cuts based on the storyboard or the animatics or whatever. By the way, if this scene has a storyboard already published or storyboard edit, if these tasks are there and the storyboard artists have published to these tasks, you will notice that when you load dependencies, these the edit of the storyboard will come to you as reference for your for the animation layout that you are going to do for this scene. So, but I don't have such tasks, so I will just ignore this for now, but that is one of the features that is there. So I will create some animation for this and we'll resume the video again. So these are animation I published, and I made some cuts for of some shots on this sequence. By the way, always avoid editing the soundtracks before you publish them to the task, or whoever is publishing them to the task. Avoid editing them, and instead place the soundtracks or publish the soundtracks sources as they came from their origin, with the gaps or silence at the beginning. It doesn't matter. And offset the sound here. The reason why I'm saying this, that whenever you get a new version of that soundtrack from the studio, from the sound studio or the composer or whoever, you want that, you don't want to re-edit again and again and again. Instead, when you do load dependencies or the new version of the sound is approved, the new version will be synchronized automatically to your work if the sources are the same. So to avoid re-editing the sound, it's recommended that you use the sound sources as they are, as long as you are sure that this is what you want to do. So one of the other things we want to do now is to resolve the animation look of whatever assets having anim look available in the scene. So in this case, we only have anim look just for the characters. And let's open the camera sequencer to see this animation. Okay, so this is what we have. I just want to mute the sound. Yeah, so this is the animation. And as you can see, each shot, according to the task brief here, that it's asking us to have the shots named in this format, which is recommended because this is how the shot will be created in the database, and this will be the name of the shot during the whole show later, even if this was edited or if the order of the shots changed, this will remain the shot name forever. So be careful about the naming of the camera, because according to the animation layout, or if there is no storyboard, then the animation layout is going to set the shot names and durations in the database. So consider putting the right numbers here. Also, the cameras, I named the cameras like this because I want the play blast and other things to have proper naming reflecting the shot names in the meanwhile when we are doing anything else. So we need to understand from at least the camera, we understand which shot is that. It's optionally to do this, but it's recommended that you do it. That's also written in the job brief, by the way. You will find it written here. So the next step is to create a play blast from this and select the sequencer in this case, because we want to do all of them, and the frame range is set correctly according to that. And we want to select this soundtrack that I disabled. Then click on publish. Once the play blast is generated off screen, we will be able to we can start publishing the job, and then we can proceed with the next processes to see how we are going to use this. I'm assuming here that this is an animation layout or blocking. Then we can use it to after that we can do the animation keyframes and refinements on each shot and each asset later. So I copied the play blast because I want to ingest it during the publishing, and we will select everything we have in the scene and all the things that we did. Maybe we can also go to a frame to take a snapshot. Asset locator and publish. Proceed, no problem. take this snapshot and let's paste the play blast. Okay, set it to art review. Now, if we go to the supervisor desk or the animation director, he will find his what you published here. And just a moment, let me mute the sound. Okay. Notice that according to the names of the shots, I can see the shot names here. Otherwise, you will be seeing the camera names, which is not the good idea. So it's recommended that you do what I did here. So let's assume that this animation blocking is approved, and let's refine it. Now it's art approved, and it should also go to the final approval, assuming that everything is technically correct. In addition to that, it's artistically approved. So now when you approve this, you will notice that if you have any other animation tasks assigned to you, they will become ready so that you can start doing the animation refinements for the downstream processes or the next processes. Approving the animation layout scene may take some time because under the hood this was checking this, if there are storyboard edits or any other edits for the shots, and creating the shots in the database according to the edits he finds, or according to the storyboard edit that you did. Before we start, we didn't have any shots created here other than shot 1, but as you see, the shot information on each shot has been set according to the durations of the shots that you used in the animation layout. And all these new shots has been created according to the animation layout you did too. Now, and according to the animation layout that we published, somebody has to start planning the characters to the shots based on the animation layout that we did, the way that the character should be in the shot where he appeared or where he had an action. Of course, we are doing this because we are just jumping some processes that we jump it to the animation layout directly without planning any shots or any shot planning. That's why we have to do this. But if you are doing the proper workflow, you might be having storyboard or storyboard edit, then there will be empty shots. Then these shots will have the characters, then accordingly these characters will come to you as dependencies, as you saw here in the dependencies of your animation layout task. Then in that case, the characters will be already planned in the scene. So because this is not the case now, I will just plan them according to the storyboard, according to the animation layout that we did. This is scene 3, and it was animation layout. I will find and close because this is approved. So let's mute the sound. And Actually, I know that the two characters are always in all the shots, maybe except one, but I will keep the characters in all the shots anyway, but depending on the situation, you can define this. So I will expand these here, and I will put the two characters in all the shots by drag and drop them to here. Seneferu will automatically, based on that, will create any tasks needed, the animation tasks, the clothes and hair simulation tasks, all will be created in the database. I clicked on the refresh button instead of saving. And yeah, that's it. And save. When you save this, the animation and the simulation tasks will be created, so it will somebody can assign them to whoever is going to do them. And again, these tasks were supposed to be there when we break down the project from at the first place, according to the screenplay script. Now there are two ways to animate or refine the animation of the shots. You can, if one animator is going to do the animation of the shot, then we can assign a task like this called animation SH. Animation SH is a shot level task and will be responsible to do the animation for anything that has to be animated in the shot. If this is not the case, then we can give it a name like animation FG characters, for example. Because maybe one animator will work on the foreground characters and one animator will work on the background characters. Maybe the first animator will animate 2 characters in the foreground, and the second animator will animate 4 secondary characters in the background. So each one of them should, each one of the 2 tasks have to have a name that reflects what is happening here. So the animation SH, it's recommended to always have it have a name that reflects what it is. Now the server is sending me that this task is assigned to me and ready to start, and I will assign some additional standalone animation tasks, and this time I will. By the way, everything I'm doing manually here isn't supposed to be manual, because the production manager will automate all of this if you have created the assets and tasks before start working. So now I want also to assign this and this and this. Okay, now let's find some of the animation tasks we have. Let's work on this task first. Now let's start by this one. When you set your task in progress and load the dependencies, notice that this is, first of all, this is the animation of just one character in the shot. This kind of tasks are assigned to you when your job is to do the animation for a particular standalone asset in the shot. If this is not the case, as I explained before, then you will be assigned to do the animation SH, which is the animation for the whole shot. In this case, it will be the two characters in the shot in the same time. If there are other animation SH tasks, according to the subcontext, you should be able to understand what is your job exactly, and according to the brief that comes to you from your supervisor. So we will start by this task first. Now, when you load dependencies, the production manager will do a lot of things this time. He will load the animation layout and any soundtrack that you have published for the shot if he found that you have a soundtrack task there. And he will load the rig if it's not already loaded. But in this case, the rig will be ignored here. As you can see here, the rig loading is ignored because he found that he already have it here. So he will not load it again. So, and after all of this, he will offset the animation layout or the sequencer animation layout to the way that your shot will start from frame 1001. If we go now to shot 2, which is this one, then you will find that the animation is starting from, let me turn off the sound. You will find that the animation is starting from shot 1001. So all these things will happen automatically. This is including also the sound offset and synchronization for that. Now, don't forget that every one of our characters have to start at the stance pose or the bind pose at frame 900 because we will need that run up to do the simulation for the hair and clothes later. So the animation cache has to have these frames, as you know. So now I made this so that, notice that I also try to keep some frames before the actual animation to the way that it helps the continuity of the shots and enable us to do maybe to have some handles during the edit and getting better cloth simulation. I didn't need that too much for the man, but for the lady, she has dress, so it's recommended for the motion continuity to have some frames animated before the actual frame range. Let's set the correct frame range again, and this is the animation, and this is the shot camera. So, by the way, Seneferu have added 5 frame handles at the end of the shot. These will be also cached automatically. According to the configuration, we have added 5 frames for the handles. So also make sure that you are animating these handles too. So actually I didn't, but it's supposed to, that it was supposed to happen. So it's recommended that you have this. Okay, now since we are ready to publish, as usual, let's create a play blast because the play blast is important for the animation. And click on this and copy the path. Okay, and let's create asset locator. and publish. Notice that the system didn't care about the other character because he knows that this animation task is for Pauline, which is the girl, and he didn't cache this character even when it's inside the asset locator. It doesn't matter. When you forget to put the animation play blast, as I forgot now, if you didn't tell it, then say append to this. You can drag it and drop it and say append to this. This will publish the play blast that I forgot to publish it during the publishing. You can also take a snapshot of this angle here, which is the camera. And now if you click on the play blast, you will see that now I will work on the second character. Again, I will set my task to in progress. This time actually I will not load dependencies to not do the whole work again. I will just create a new asset locator for the new character and publish. So this will be everything I have to do because the animation is already done. Of course, what I was supposed to do is to create play blast for the character, but I'm not going to do this because it's not that important. We have the play blast already for the shot because I didn't modify any animation. And as you see again, the caching is happening only to Paul because he is the character of this task. Okay, this is published. And by the way, if you click on Control-Shift, you can check the cache in the USD view, where you can play your cache and make sure that everything is fine. There's no penetration or anything bad or any wrong animation or whatever. This is another way when you are doing the check for the task before approving it. Now let's see this type of animation. It's exactly the same. We will set the task to in progress. The difference in the animation is such as that we are going to animate the two characters together. And this type of process is configured to create the children animation tasks that you are generating out of the animation you are doing here. So this is shot 1. We can go to shot 1. Notice that this process, because it's expecting that you may have multiple characters in multiple instances of the same character, and sometimes then this process is configured in the processes control table to load its dependencies under a namespace. And this is just for the rigs, not anything else. And also notice that because the production manager found that these rigs are already there in the animation layout, he didn't load them here because they are already there. So we have nothing to do here other than doing the same thing that we did before, is to set the characters to the bind pose at frame 900 using a flat tangent, and don't forget to cache the animation of the handle frames. Actually, the system will cache it automatically. You don't. The system will not look at your timeline, but he's looking on the needed frame range and will cache it all the frame range he need. But you need to have the animation on them. This time we will create the asset locator relatively in a different way, because this task is a multi-children publishing task, which means that it will publish all the children asset under the asset locator. In our case, we are animating 2 characters, so what the system is going to do, he will publish 2 animation tasks. The animation task for this character and the animation task for this character, as if you have done them in standalone mode, as we saw in the previous animation processes. So what we are going to do is that we will take these 2 characters and we will create the asset locator for them. If you try to open this now, you will notice that creating the asset locator has created animation FG task for this character and animation FG task for this character. And when we publish this, Seneferu understands that he will have to publish all the children according to the configuration of the animation SH process and the processes control table. Anyway, this is beyond the scope of this session, but a pipeline TD can assist on any type of configuration for the pipeline or the processes control. So now we are ready and we have the play blast, and we can now publish. Notice that the system also created the tasks needed in the database. Here I will paste the play blast. And I will say yes. Next, he will start caching the characters. Notice that the caching is happening now one by one. Now he's caching this character. Next, he will cache the other character. Okay, so as you see, publishing multi-child asset completed successfully. Now, here is something important to know about this type of multi-children publishing task. In this case is the animation on the shot level, which has multiple assets to be published at the same time. You will notice that this type of assets cannot be approved. It can art approved, but it cannot be finally approved. This gets approved when the children animation tasks are approved. In that case, when the let's say the animation director or the director approves these animation tasks, like this is art approved, and this animation for FG is art approved for shot 1, and if this is finally approved as a final technical review, and this is also approved. Now this automatically approves the animation task. This can never be directly approved because it doesn't work like that, because it's multi-children assets, and later if you receive the note on one of the assets, you don't need to republish this asset again. What is going to happen now, if let's say for example that I gave a note on this character here, if I added a note here, then you will work on this asset instead of working on the animation SH. In this case, you will be working only on the animation of this character, not all the characters again. Remember that the animation SH might be having 5 or 10 or any number of shots, and you don't want to do that, to publish all of them again and again and again. If this character only has something wrong to fix, you will fix it and publish. As you can see, this you will publish only this character asset locator, which is the animation FG of Paul. This is there just because the reference required that, in case you want to see what is going on or if there is any constraints between them. But finally, this is your asset locator that you are going to publish after addressing any notes you have received on your task. So, in other words, the animation SH is something you will do once, and you will not publish the whole animation for all the children again and again, except if all the animation of all the children have notes to be addressed. Now we will look at how to deal with situations when you have multiple instances of the same asset in the shot. I made just a testing, additional testing scene here that has this character and this character and the horse and this set. We will load dependencies for everything, of course, after we set the task to in progress. And by the way, because nothing is published here, the production manager will just ignore this asset. So all what you need to do to have, let's say that we will have multiple instances of this horse. So what we are going to do is just click on Alt and reference as many times as you want. Then let's place this horse maybe here, and this. And this. Let's say that this is what you want, and whatever the animation for the characters is doesn't matter. So the way you do this is that to publish this, you need to select actually everything and create asset locator. What this is going to do, to take some time, then it will create an animation task for each children asset you have. But our interest here is the horses. Then see what happened is that each horse now has an animation task with different subcontext. The first one is just as it is without any subcontext, and the second two is having now subcontext. If you look at the project database, you will notice that if you go to the scene and go to this scene 4 shots, and let's go directly to the assets and shots in the shots detail, you will find that the horse is actually, when it was planned, there was only one animation task because we planned only one horse to the shot. If you go to the assets and shot planner, you will notice that inside these shots, we planned only the horse and the two characters. So you cannot plan one asset to the shot multiple times. That's why you will load it as many times as it's required. Then what happens now when we publish this is that during the publish, when the task control detects that you have multiple instances as what happened here, then the task control will create additional tasks to this horse asset here. Let's go to the shot. Then there will be another additional 2 assets here called animation/1 and animation/2. So which has 2 and 3 as what happened here. Also, in LookDev, these assets are going to have different textures based on the instance number of the asset in the scene. So these will not be having the same exact texture and shader, but when we do shader resolve on these, each one of these sources will have different varying ID, which tells the system that each one of them is a different instance, so they can be rendered differently. So I will publish this test as it is here for now, just to show you what's going to happen. And if you read here, you will notice that the log is telling that these tasks are being created. by the way, if your job in this animation SH is to animate the camera also, then you will have to include the camera rig in the asset locator, which is what I did actually. So in this case, the camera animation will also be published to the shot. And also notice that the production manager, by communicating to the task control, both know that the environment inside this asset locator is not related to animation, so it will not be published. So the animation SH has a configuration that tell the system what exactly needs to be published as a child for this animation. So the camera rig is an option, a character animation is an option, any rig is an option, but such assembled environment is not an option to be published during the animation of the shot. I had to actually reduce the frame range a little bit, but it's fine. Because publishing multi-children task like this is what it does is actually publishing each one of the children asset as a standalone publish, as we mentioned before. So this takes time to go and cache each one of them individually, because later on, when any one of them receive note, we want to modify or address the note on that particular one, not everything. So we don't have to publish everything again and again and again. As much as we break down the task to smaller tasks, as much as we can distribute the work to many artists, and we can run parallel work, so that improves the efficiency of the production and helps us utilize the resources we have and the people we have. I think this is the last one, and yes. Okay, so back to the database. Let's see what happened. You will notice now that the horse has animation, animation 2, and animation 3. These are added automatically and assigned automatically to the user who was owning the original animation of the shot. And notice that if this requires clothes simulation or horse or hair simulation, then the needed task should be created for them, or it can be created automatically again from the simulation process, which is a process that is similar to the animation SH, but is a compound simulation which can run several simulations in parallel. On the other hand, let's have a look at how to do animation for VFX. Let's say, for example, that we want to work on the train animation task for this scene and shot. Now, when we click on Load Dependencies, let's ignore the undistort also, so I want to show the difference between the two, when it's loaded or when it's not loaded. what actually the production manager is doing now, that is loading every thing we have it selected in the dependencies, and this is of course including the tracking scene solution, which has the shots and plates. If we hide now these objects, and let's also hide the mountain itself or any set extension. So as you can see now, the dependencies are loaded, and what you are seeing now is the original shot plate, which have distortion. So if you query the version of this plate now, you will find that this is the coming from the tracking scene, which is having the original shot plate. Now, if we load the undistorted image, notice that now this is loaded as replacement for the same image plane actually. So if you now query the version of this plate, you will find that the shot plate, you will find that it's coming from the undistorted asset. So that's what happens when you load all dependencies. What the production manager is going to do is loading the tracking solution, and if he found that there is undistorted version of the plate, he will retarget the image plane in the tracking solution with the undistorted version of the plate, so you can align your animation properly with undistorted image, because of course the distorted image will make wrong feedback when you are placing and animating your assets. So that's all what you need to know about animating for VFX shots, but the rest of the things is exactly as you already know, that it's just doing your job as an animator, as long as you already now have all what you need inside your scene. At the end, when you finish, and because your task is actually to animate this train for this shot, then at the end you will click on the animated train that you have animated, and you click on Asset Locator and Publish. That's all.